Hey everyone, it's Matt Barrows with a solo 49ers plus minus on a Wednesday, which means lots of injury talk. I think there's two themes for today's solo cast. One is the Arizona boys, Ricky Pearsall, Brock Purdy, who went to high school just a few miles from one another in the Phoenix area. Both seem like they're on track to play in Arizona on Sunday. We'll talk about that more later. The second theme, though, this is the big one, and I hope everybody's sitting down for it. The Arizona Cardinals seem like the more beat up team going into this week 11 matchup than the 49ers. The Cardinals had 17 players on their practice participation report on Wednesday. That's a 49ers like number from recent weeks. The 49ers had 7. And 2 of those guys, Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, never practiced on a Wednesday. They're not injured. They were given rest days. So it's quite a contrast. In fact, the Cardinals had so many injuries that they had to have a walkthrough practice instead of their normal Wednesday practice. They had one of their wide receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr., had to have appendicitis. He's going to be out for the game. They put Zay Jones, another wide receiver, on injured reserve. They've got all sorts of issues on defense. Who is it? Mac Wilson, their starting linebacker, is injured. Their top draft pick, somebody that the 49ers looked at pretty closely. They had him in for a visit, Walter Nolan. He's only played 2 games thus far, and he had to come out of the most recent game. Both 49ers and the Cardinals could be without their first-round draft picks. Walter Nolan is a defensive tackle. I think he was limited in the Wednesday walkthrough. So I think there's probably a chance that he plays, but he's been banged up. The Arizona Cardinals have been banged up. I would say that wide receiver and defensive line are their 2 biggest issues, which 49ers fans will probably not be sympathetic to, but can kind of recognize as a problem. And yes, of course, the 49ers have so many players on injured reserve, so they're not listed on this practice participation report. I don't need to tell you the names. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Michael Williams, a big chunk of their salary cap, in fact, is on IR and won't be playing for the rest of the season. But you're facing now a Cardinals team where the top 2 wide receivers are probably going to be Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, and they're down to their backup quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, as well. All right, so let's go through the 49ers position groups, and we'll start with quarterback. And Brock Purdy was officially limited in the Wednesday practice, just as he's been the last 3 or 4 weeks. The difference is that he's taking the lion's share of the first-team reps. And Kyle Shanahan said on Wednesday that they're hoping for increasingly aggressive practices this week. And the Thursday practice will be telling, like it always is. But the plan is to ramp Purdy up aggressively and start him in Arizona on Sunday. So that plan seemed to get off on the right foot on Wednesday. Purdy looked sharp. He looked good. This is the first 20, 25 minutes of practice. So not the full session, but the part that we did see, and you can probably make him out in this video throwing to Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle and some other guys, is that he looked kind of like himself. That was Christian McCaffrey's take. Brock looks like Brock. So I think the question moving forward is going to be, how quickly can he get up to speed? How quickly can he kind of recapture that chemistry with the Pearsalls, with the Juwan Jennings, with Jordan Watkins, some other guys that he hasn't practiced or played with in quite a while. No real changes at running back. wide receiver. Ricky Pearsall was back. His first practice since week 4, the same game that Brock Purdy got injured in. Ricky Pearsall was injured in. Apparently, he had a good weekend of rehab. He started to hit all of his numbers. The 49ers like to see especially receivers hit their mile per hour reading. They all have baselines. They all have certain speeds that they can reach when they're fully healthy. The 49ers want to see those receivers hitting those speeds before they come back to practice. And Pearsall looked like he was at full speed. He was out there. He was kind of going through the rotations with the top 3 receivers, the other 2 being Kendrick Bourne and Juwan Jennings. So he does seem on track to play. The question would be, if he does play on Sunday, who goes down? The 49ers usually have 5 wide receivers in uniform. I think it's safe to assume that Jennings, Bourne, and Pearsall, if he's playing, would be the top 3. And then that would leave Sky Moore, Demarcus Robinson, and Jordan Watkins. And I think that Sky Moore, he almost broke a punt for a touchdown against the Rams. I think that he's probably safe. And so it comes down to Jordan Watkins or Demarcus Robinson. Do you want to go with the veteran who hasn't been performing like you should, but he is a veteran? Or do you want to go with the rookie who's got all sorts of upside, but you might not trust him quite a bit or quite as much, rather? I will say that Jordan Watkins is faster, and that's something that the 49ers have lacked in recent weeks. They will get an element of speed back with Ricky Pearsall. He's one of their 4 fastest guys. So they'll have 2 of their fast guys available, Pearsall and Watkins. But 2 are still yet to come, and those 2 are Brandon Ayuk and Jacob Cowing. The offensive line is status quo. I think the only kind of question is whether Spencer Burford and Ben Bartch continue to alternate at left guard. Against the Rams, it was 2 series for Burford and then 1 for Ben Bartch. Bartch had been out with a high ankle sprain since week 2, so it was a way to get him warmed up. I think that the 49ers liked how that worked. You'll recall that they've alternated guards in the past, Burford being one of them. I do think that, Bartch is probably the superior guard and the one that they'd rather have. Bartch does get injured a lot, however, so this could be a way of sort of mitigating the wear and tear that he absorbs. Tight end, status quo. Defensive line, really the only sort of question mark there is Alfred Collins. He was one of 3 defensive linemen who got hurt in last Thursday's practice. And I'll be writing about the Thursday sessions this week, so keep an eye out for that in the Athletic. Clea Davis had an ankle. Keon White had a groin injury. Both of those guys ended up playing against the Rams, and neither of them are on the practice report this week. Alfred Collins did not practice, and you might remember me saying that he was kind of walking around gingerly as late as the Friday practice. And so he was obviously having issues with the hip. They tried to get him to go before the game, and it just wasn't happening. So he was inactive for that game. He was a limited participant on Wednesday. Again, he seems kind of iffy right now, but he does appear further along now than he did 5 days ago, and he's also tracking to play. So everybody who's up on the 53-man roster on the defensive line was in practice. The only other, injuries worth mentioning at linebacker, D. Winters is dealing with the knee issue, and I think probably people saw him laboring with that at times against the Rams. He didn't have a great game. None of the linebackers really did. He was limited on Wednesday. I would say that he looked better, though, on Wednesday than he did a week ago heading into the Rams game. Tatum Bethune was on last week's injury list with a thigh injury. He's not on it anymore. So he seems to be back. So, I mean, it's not a healthy team by any stretch of the imagination, but they are healthier than they've been in a while. So if you're looking for some silver linings in all the clouds this season, this is the 1 week where they haven't had a new injury, and also the 1 week where their opponent has way more injuries than they do. Anyway, Tim and I will be back at you after Thursday's practice. That's when we're going to know for sure who the starting quarterback is. I think that Brock Purdy is probably going to talk during the day. So it'll be interesting to dissect what he says and what the 49ers quarterback situation is looking like heading into Arizona. Anyway, talk to you soon. Bye.